how many people were here last time? Okay, so I'm going to repeat myself a lot because I looked at the YouTube video of the last event that we did here for Bivouac and Chesterfield King, and we talked a lot about this record then. So I'm going to repeat myself. I have very few stories, so bear with me if you've heard them before. If you haven't, I don't care about you anyway. All right. So the way we started last time was I have a trailer from the documentary that's being made about Jawbreaker. It's under doc, yeah, and it's trailer. So let's watch this. It's not online yet. This is the thing that they're going to put on the Kickstarter campaign that I promised would be up, happening already 2 years ago. But this is out of my control because I'm not making this movie. Keith Strawn and Tim Irwin are making this movie. They made The Minutemen, We Jammed Econo, and that's the only reason there's going to be a Jawbreaker documentary was because of those guys who made that movie particularly. Otherwise, this wouldn't be happening. Oh! Yeah, maybe so. Let's see. Everyone picked up on the story of my little band selling out. That was me. They were out very ambitious, very into their little project. They were amazing. They're kind of tight. You feel like the band's yours or something like that. And I think that there was a lot of that job that you were like, you were just like kind of fans about it. Remember Blake saying, dude, I think we owe it to ourselves to stop this band right now before he's getting on. When bands break up, it's really easy to find it and out when you just listen to it over and ridiculous. We can't stop this band. I have tons of shit of ours that I have no idea what to do with. Regardless of what was going on, when it came together with work music, there was nothing like it. For all the said and done, that's the best record that possibly rather do things ethically, but also kind of dangerously in a way that I think can see in return. So when I really felt like punk was dead, then I realized it was a good time to be part of it or claim it. If the band that you're in isn't your favorite band, then you're not doing something wrong. It was fun to play good music, and I think we just lucked out. You know, it's just the state of truth, really, the awareness of being alive, what that means as a human animal. I'm sorry, we weren't set up for sound, so I had to hold the mic to the thing. Did you guys hear that back there at all? That was great, though, wasn't it?
What about the doc clip? Is that too?
We'll show that later. Okay, here, as a reward, if you stick around, we'll show the scene from the movie. Well, while we're here, while we have this open, so the Kickstarter campaign, you know, you have to come up with incentives, little prizes and things to give to people who pre-order. It's basically an elaborate pre-order for the DVD. So we made some stuff, and this is what I've been doing on my downtime for the past. several months. Okay, so you might want to skateboard. This is the Jawbreaker. The movie's going to be called Don't Break Down. And it's called Don't Break Down because one of our very first songs that we ever put out, it had a line in there about not breaking down. I can't remember exactly which one that was. But it was also the very last line in the very last song that we wrote, when I just realized that when we were going through this process of making the movie. I was like, they're like, what do you want to call it? So I solicited you guys, actually, via the interwebs, and everyone said, weighed in. And we were very close to calling it Welcome to Our Band, which was the name of our very first song that we would play through sound check. Basically, it didn't have any words. It was an instrumental called Welcome to Our Band. But I realized that we had this sort of bookend line that spanned the entire time that we were playing together. Don't break down. That's the last line, I think, in Faresme. From the live album is the only version that we have of that. So the movie's called Don't Break Down, and this is a little comic that someone was commissioned to do. Is his name on there? Wow, I didn't get his name on there. I'm pretty sure it's Jeff. Correct me if you know this. Is it Jeff with the line? I think so. Is that right? Okay. He did that for Pulse magazine back in the day. Tower Records. Remember Tower Records? Remember how we used to hate on Tower Records a little bit when we had our other indie stores like Rhino and stuff? And then they were gone, and then we weren't hating on Tower anymore. Then we were like, I miss Tower. So they had a magazine that would come out, and they did a piece on the group, and Jeff was commissioned to do this. And he was kind enough to sell me this image so I could put it on T-shirts and stuff. I gave him a bunch of dough, and he got paid, and I get to do this. And it's the words to Condition Oakland from 24-Hour Revenge Therapy. And he did a really great job. It's very, it's very evocative, I think. So you get you give a certain amount of dough to the Kickstarter campaign. Now, it looks like I'm leading with trying to get you guys to give more money. This just happened to be open. And it's cool, too. Look at some of this stuff, all right? I contacted Peter Bagg from Hate Bags, right? Hate Comics. Are you guys remember Hate?
Oh, yeah.
And among many other things. And look what we got him to do. Holy shit!
Whoa.
Again, I'm wearing this clothes. I'm literally wearing this. And down to the color of Chris's Antigua P base, and Blake's tattoo, his first tattoo, and my Dodgers hat. Okay, so that's cool. You can get one. That's going to be a screen print, silk screen print. Are we doing this?
You gotta tell me. Is that a limited run?
No, I think it'll be, we're going to try to make as many as we can, hopefully. Obviously I like keeping stuff in print. I like things to be available. I like, I hate the idea of taking stuff out of print. Always bugged me. Because it made everyone bring up collector prices, and it was crazy. Like I remember when eBay first came out, I would look on there and see what some of our shit would go for, and it was ridiculous. And I was like, I don't even have that. If you haven't lived until you buy your own record on eBay, I've done that. I realized I had like one 24-hour, like just a couple. I was like, I need to get a couple more of these things before I repress it. I had to buy my own record on eBay. Here's another thing. This was done by Ruben Rude, who is a local artist in San Francisco who I met at the park when our children were babies. And our kids were just playing around in the sand eating cat shit and the sand. And he had a Jawbreaker tattoo, I noticed, and I was like, hey, I know that man. Anyway, so I've known Ruben for a lot of years now. He does a lot of work for the band, and that he designed the black ball logo and the cat listening to the boombox. He's made posters. Anyway, he made this poster for me. We got together, and I drew him a very sketchy picture of what my favorite practice space was that we ever had, and this is pretty much what it looked like, if you could believe this. We had the second floor of downtown rehearsal in the Bayview in San Francisco. We had a corner room that had basically floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls, and at night we could see the sun go down behind the Sutro Tower and the Caltrain go by. It was so cool. We would practice and then just sort of turn around and be kind of in awe of our view, our good fortune. So that's kind of it. And again, Ruben did a great job here with like, this is exactly what Chris's bass looked like, and that's Blake, the headstock of Blake's Gibson Standard, and our James for Living candle, and cigarettes. Don't smoke, you guys. It made it look cool. Yeah.
The one with the original one that you clicked on, but there's one with the name of down to the right.
This one?
The one over.
This one?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be any different. Maybe. Oh, it's bigger.
I just wanted to see the title.
This is after Ruben treated it for screen printing. I don't know about this stuff, but you have to do a certain amount of bit mapping to sort of make stuff jump out and look cool and look more cartoony, I think. Like, you know, what else is in there? Oh, here's click on this one. Okay, Andy Goldman helped me with this. Andy designed the title, and this is the movie poster. This is what it's gonna look like. It'll probably maybe even just be the cover of the thing. But I don't know. I'm not totally up on all of this stuff. That's us on Mission Street taking a walk with a photographer called, I think, John Dunn took that picture. He gets to the other. And there's like an alt version of this, which is a live shot of the group play. It's on the same thing, but like down a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So this is, there'll be like, this is the B poster, and that's us playing at the Palace in Hollywood. That was a show, that was one of our last shows in Los Angeles.
I played that show.
Yeah, Dave Jones in the house right over here. Yes, that's right. Dave fucking Jones. That's right. I've known Dave forever, and this guy can play the bass like he's ringing a fucking bell.
Yeah, that was a great show. That was my favorite.
He was playing with that dog that night. That dog? Come on, everybody. That Dog and Club at the Palace. That was a big deal for us because, we'd never headlined a big show at a big old place like that. We were playing at GR2 most of the time. Sold it out, I think. Okay. I'd seen Jim Carroll band there years before when I was in high school. So to go back there and it was pretty good. All right, let's close this. I'm trying to think of, like I said, I'm not really prepared. I just have a bunch of pictures and stuff, and I have this, which is, if we ever get around to you guys asking me any questions, I think some of the answers might be in here. I just transcribed my journal entries from 1993, and they'll be sort of embarrassing, but also, I'm sure, very of their time. And I cheated a little bit and expanded on some stuff. Okay, also in the house, Don Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay, Don Lewis. Woo. I want to show some pictures of Don Lewis. Don Lewis, the majority of the live photographs that you see of Jawbreaker, the vast majority, they are done by Don Lewis, Chrissy Piper, who's here. Where are you, Chrissy? In the back. Chrissy Piper, from way back in the day. Chrissy was taking pictures of us in 1992. And so was Don. And they would show up. Okay, here's the show. Kind of, okay, again, to the youth, kind of a dodgy image, I think, maybe, for but this is how we were doing it back in the early 90s. And this is, so artists Gary, I think, and Michelle would contact an artist, a silk screen person, and they would make a poster for the show and sell them at the show and make a little bit extra money. This was the show where Don took the session that you see represented on Jawbreaker's record 24-hour which is available right back there on red vinyl and black vinyl. So here's that. So we go play the show at GR2, which was like our home away from home. We played there every single time we came through LA, regardless of where else we were playing. We were playing at the Roxy. We did an unannounced show at GR2. We were playing that show at the Palace. We played at GR2. Because it was great. If any of you were there, you realized how great it was. It was amazing. It was about this big, I would say. Maybe a little bit bigger. Right?
Arcade.
There's there's vintage arcade games in the back. You could get Pop-Tarts and soda at the bar. There was one bathroom. Good luck sitting down in there if you had to. No lock on the door. You know what I mean? It was a little bit... Okay, so Jawbreaker is the place where Don took a bunch of really great photos. Now, Don, I think I had spoken to you and said, we're going to play at this show, we need really good pictures. So Don hired an assistant with a flash on a boom, like on a big stick, and she kind of pointed at us, and it would kind of light up, and then bam, there would be a big burst of light, and the result are the pictures that I'm going to show you right now. Chris Bauermeister on the bass guitar was not amused by the flashing lights going off. He was so angry. But I think it made his performance better. So just down. All right, and there's not much to say about these pictures, but I thought that I think that they're cool, and I think that Don takes amazing pictures, and obviously this whole session is what you see on the 24-hour revenge therapy, and it's I'll just kind of weigh in if anything's, I think anything is kind of interesting. Oh, well, here's something that's interesting. Can you see her? Right here? It's really kind of tough to see her, but that's Mary Stuart Masterson, who you might know as the drummer in Some Kind of Wonderful, the John Hughes movie. Who doesn't love Mary Stuart Masterson? Raise your hand. Because you don't want. So you can imagine we were thrilled that the drummer from Some Kind of Wonderful movie was watching at the Jabber Job. We thought that was great. You can probably see her a couple of times. She's right over in this area here. Anyway, we might have even thanked her on the record, actually. Because we were tired. We didn't even meet her. But we were like, thank you, Stuart, for coming out. Yeah. Thanks for the support all these years. Unbelievable. Is Mom here? I don't think so. Probably. What? This was... No, it was this show. It was this one. So that was with Driftwood, the band Driftwood. But did Tri-State open one of those Jawbreaker? Really? Yeah. That many? Wow. Brad. Jason Sutter, my old bandmate from we had a band called Tri-State Kill Spree. Back in the day, we had a single on Sympathy for the Record Industry. This was a band that was born, we used to work at Nana Warehouse shipping Doc Martens to all you punk rockers out and down and about. So that was our gig, and we had a house band, Tri-State Kill Spree. Jason, me, Manhart on bass, and Nicely on guitar. We were great. You could find that record on eBay, I'm sure. $2. There'll be a couple of us there. It's great. We used to practice up in the warehouse after hours. This is when we used to work with Dee from L7 too. Like she would hang out, and Kirk was there. Yeah, everything. I'm sorry. I'm like reminiscing. Sorry about that. I digress.
There's the real gentleman.
Okay, John Lou.
The real gentleman.
Is it here?
No.
John Lou couldn't make it today. I went and saw John yesterday when we hung out. John Lou was our first singer in this band before we decided to call it Jawbreaker. And John remained our pal, and he roadied with us for the 24-hour Revenge Therapy tour. I have some good John story, actually. But what's funny to me about this picture, which we used for the booklet of the CD, is that we're, with that sort of photography, sometimes there was so much movement, we would be double exposed, things would happen, and the lights would go crazy. I love the way the pictures look, but there's one thing. Where does your eye go when you look at this picture? It's John Lou. And I love that, because that's our guy. So that's the cover of the thing. So I'm going to have doubles of these. Okay, Don didn't take that last picture. Here's me with drummer face. Sorry about that. This might be, maybe it's on, no, it's not on the back, but it's very similar to the very back cover of the record. It kind of makes that whatever lens you were using makes Jawbreaker look kind of big, because it's like a wide angle or something, but we were right here, it was a very tight stage, if you guys remember, and it was sweaty in there, sweatier than it is in here right now. There's the back cover. We would look at the contact sheets, and I would usually just defer to Blake. I'd be like, what do you think we should use? And he liked this one. I don't know what he liked about it. Maybe it was that his eyes were closed and he liked the lighting or something, or just kind of just us all go. And there's Blake reaching for it. There's me with more drummer face and Chris Bauermeister wearing some crazy shirt. Whenever you see a picture of Chris, just look at his hands, because you can see that he's again, Don didn't take that picture. Uh-oh. Are we having technical things?
Adam, that Jabberjaw book's coming out soon, right? I think
yeah, there's a Jawbreaker book and reunion site, I think on Facebook. And I got a message or something.
She put everything in.
It said, yeah, she posted a thing that said the end on a typewriter. Okay. She interviewed Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
And he gave her a quote. We gave her the quotes too. And I hope she got some of your pictures.
Okay. Okay.
That's going to be an amazing book. It'll be a great document if you like bands from our era, if you're into like Unwound or, Huh? Oh, I don't know. When I was talking to Eric about coming down here, I didn't really, I said slideshow, and I don't know what to say about a lot of these pictures, only that they're great, and it was hard to choose which ones to use for the record, because they're pretty awesome. Look at how intense Chris looks in this picture. Whoa. But I could just kind of flip through here and talk about recording the record. Do you guys care about that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I'm one of those I'm like the classic albums nerd who likes to hear all about the nuts and bolts. Like, what kind of amp is that? I'm that guy. even though I don't know anything about that stuff, I love hearing about it. So if you guys want to ask me about what kind of drum heads I use, what kind of sticks I use.
I have a question.
Yeah, my brother. Again, my brother shilling for me by being bad.
No, I was curious. Maybe you can't say this out loud in front of so many people if it was a bad work or something, but how was Steve Albini, like, what was his vibe like? Was he serious? Was he funny? What was Steve Albini like?
Well, I kind of told the story before, but I'll tell it again for the new people. We decided we wanted to work with Steve Albini because we admired his work in Big Black and the stuff he produced. He produced Dixie's first record. He worked with Superchunk. He had just recorded Nirvana's In Utero, and we thought, let's try Steve Albini. So I got his number, I think, maybe even from information or something, and
You're the one that you contacted him?
oh yeah.
Oh.
I say that like as if everyone's supposed to know that I did all the work. Obviously, I did not do all the work. But stuff like that I took on. I was kind of like, the drummer does that stuff, don't they? Doesn't the drummer always do that shit? Why is that? Does anyone have a theory on why the drummer picks up that kind of slack?
No.
You will be escorted out. Okay. No, that's kind of my theory too, actually.
You didn't answer my question, though. What was he like?
Hold on a second. Sure. So I call him Steve. I call him Steve because I know him. Steve. I call him Steve. And I was really nervous to talk to this guy on the phone because it was almost like calling to ask for a date or something, or it was like a job interview. I didn't know if I was going to call up and he was going to be like, I don't like your band, click, or yeah, I heard you guys bullshit, click. So I was scared to call Steve Albini, frankly, and I called him up and he picks up the phone, like, hello. And then I was like, didn't know what to say, and I had probably, to be in all honesty, I probably practiced a little bit before I dialed them up. I probably had like the thing, okay, drop Gary Hell's name from Revolver and tell him you're coming through and it'd be great and blah. So we had this discussion. He was like, yeah, cool. What do you want to do? So it was as simple as calling up to make a reservation for dinner, which I didn't realize, but this is the way this man made his living. And if you called him up, he would open up his calendar and he'd put you down the calendar and you'd bring money and tape and done. So I was like, I found out, cool, we're going to go make a record with Steve Albini. This is amazing. So I didn't know. All I knew of Steve Albini was what I had read. Like, he did pieces for some zines and stuff like Forced Exposure, or I just remember reading interviews with him, and I remember people talking about him, and I remember there was a lot of back and forth. There'd be back and forth between him and somebody, or him and Henry Rollins are mad at each other. Just like, there was rep there, and I didn't really know what to expect, what kind of guy he'd be. And of course, when we pulled up, he couldn't have been cooler and more gracious and hysterical funny. Really funny guy because he's also a really smart guy. So he's necessarily super funny. So that's what Steve was like. I could get into more detail about that. I could tell the whole story about it. If you want to hear about like us driving across the country and stuff to get to Steve Albini, I have it all right here. I'll bore you to tears talking about Iowa and Nebraska.
Were you drawn to him because, one thing about Steve Albini that always jumps out to me, why I like him so much at him, was his drum sound. He gets this really like live in the room drum sound. And were you drawn to that?
Yeah, totally. But I mean, you wouldn't have known about it. Like, you'd have to kind of look into the catalog. A lot of people, if you say Steve Albini back in the day, they'd go Big Black.
Yeah,
Big Black doesn't have any drummer.
Right.
Big Black is a drum machine. And I said to Steve at some point, I said, why did you, like with the guitar, like the drum tones that you get, why would you, I'm surprised that you played with a drum machine. Like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just play with a human being? And he had the perfect answer, which was something, it was something like, he said, I would never, he said, that music needed that kind of relentless pulse. He said, I would never make a human being play that way. Why would I do that to somebody? Like, that would be awful. And then it clicked. I was like, oh my God, right. Okay. He's leaving the building. Yeah. He was the only person that I knew was going to show up today. That was Jason. Yeah. So, but he did have a great drum set. He does still have a great drum sound. I don't know how he does it, but I have an idea about how he did it for us.
How did he do it for you?
Well, it's like, can we get to the folders? We could just jump around, I guess, like this, or I can go chronological. I do have a pretty good memory for all of this stuff, but I have some, yeah, maybe so. So, let's see, Albini tracks, so if you click on that. I don't know if you can see how sharp it is, but I know that he used a lot of Neumann mics on the.
We don't want to hear that part.
Oh, you want to hear that part?
No. Meaning, not that it's not interesting, but that's bad for us because Neumanns are really expensive.
Yeah.
But
he had he had like a quiver of vintage microphone that he broke out like the Holy Grail, like carefully opened them up and brought them out of there like velvet. Like there was Russian tube lights from however long ago, and there was 60 Neumanns in there. And this is if you're like a musician person right now, you know what I'm talking about. If not, just think it's like jewelry or something, or just gold. So here, the thing about Albini was we played in his basement. We did not record at Electrical Audio, which is what people associate with Steve Albini. We played at Albini's house. So we pulled up to Albini's house, and then he opens the door, and Bob Weston lets us in. And we're like, we know that guy too. So immediately, we're like, oh my God, this is like the house of. So the main level of his house is where he lived. That's where the living room, dining room, kitchen, whatever, his room. We live into the basement, which is, again, probably not much bigger than this. And it's even got these floors. It's a cement floor basement, kind of small, but kind of crap around and weird angles and stuff, so it's not just a big perfect box, which I think is bad for recording because the sound bounces around like that and ricochets around. But enough kind of weird stuff around in right angles that was cool. And we pull up and I unload my drums and we just start immediately setting up. He's like, your drums go there, amp is there, other amp is there, and we're basically setting up like we're going to go practice. And he starts breaking out those amazing microphones that are thousands of dollars, and he starts putting them down. And 2 through 9, I think just 2 through 9 is me. Does that make sense? Yeah. Kid, snare,
2 overhead.
rat, good, overhead. Room mic, PZM on the floor, taped to the floor probably, like PZM mic is like, makes it sound like you're recording with a boombox, which is the best sound ever. Boombox recording, the best drum sound ever. Couple of those, maybe, a room mic, something far back, and that's me, that's it, no more. Which is not unlike, I know people that record with far fewer mics now, 4 mics for the drums, done. And then Chris was direct bass, and then amp, one on his amp. And Blake had two guitars. He played the rhythm track, and then he doubled it, split it, stereo, and then maybe one other, there's 3 guitars on this record. Wow. And then at the most, I think.
They all Les Pauls.
I think so. maybe like a distortion pedal. But a lot of the ferocious guitar comes from his Marshall JCM 800, and whatever this is micing it with.
But the most ferocious sound, right, came from the little, like, telephone-y thing?
Yeah, that's true. I'll get into that.
Okay, all right.
So, again, a very basic setup here, if you're interested in this recording stuff. You don't need 72 tracks. You don't need even 48, and we didn't even use 24. We used between probably, I think we used maybe 19 tracks, like less than 20 tracks for everything. A lot of that was me, because like the drummer always has to have all the mics to isolate each little sound if you want to have control over it. Anyway, how do I get out of there? If that was sharper, you could see he has code for what mics he used on those things. So Dave, I'll show you if you want to see it later. But I don't know what I don't think it's any big secret. He's very vocal about what he uses.
What he prefers. Yeah, but I want to know for you specifically.
Huh?
I want to know for you specifically. Because he does have a lot.
This is proof that we made this record in 3 days. You can see the dates. So we go to Chicago and we record. I get my drums, Matt Spector, in the house. Matt Spector was the first person to give me Racer X, the big black record, and said, "You have to listen to this. This is insane." So my first Albini record was actually given to me by this guy. Okay, so we pull up. I unload the drums. We get there like noon. For some reason, when you record a record, the earliest you're supposed to get to the studio is at noon for some reason. It's just ever I don't know why that is. And he's like, "Yeah, come on in. You know, super nice guy, hilarious." Weston gets us set up. We bust out the mics. We start tracking at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the very first day. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, I am bragging a little bit. It's 6 o'clock, I'm done. All my tracks are done. All the basics. Me and Chris are both done in 3 hours with this record. Which is crazy, if you think about it, the way things are done now. It would take a lot more time, but we did it like this really quick. We would do maybe 2 or 3 passes at the most. Albini, the control room isn't in the basement. It's in the attic. And we can't see him when we're recording. All we could do is hear him through the can. We would hear him and he'd go, and we'd be like, "Oh shit, we gotta run it again." We don't even see him. We could just hear him through the headset. We would do a take, and we'd get all the way through the song, and then we would haul ass up the stairs, up to the attic where he is. We would listen back, and we go, "Yeah, okay, that sounds like about it." So if you listen to this record, there's clams all over the place. You can hear me hitting rim shots and kind of dropping beats and falling behind a little bit, maybe rushing a little bit far forward. There's a very human element in this record, which is why it's so cool, I think. You fall back a little bit and you get a little bit of breathing room. You go forward a little bit and then you're constantly trying to make up for that while you're playing. It sounds like, man, in the room, it was very much like practice. The way we recorded was like we were practicing. You're Blake, and you're Chris. It was like right there, and it's done. Maybe the amps were turned away to the wall or something to get rid of the wash from the cymbals.
Alright, with this record, were you trying to capture this like a live, like what you sound like live, or did you go in there with like references with albums that you want? I kind of wanted to sound like this, or were you leaving it up to the beginning to kind of just be like, do what you do, or did you, like with tones and stuff, did you have, like, I guess Blake's tones and Chris's tones, but like...
Well, Blake had, yes, on all of that. We went in knowing that Steve was known to get the best approximation of what your band sounds like live. And that's kind of what we were going for. We were trying to also be ambitious, because don't get me wrong, when basics are done and the drum track is done and the bass track is done, like Blake is going to go in later and he's going to put a whole new guitar over that thing so it's right in the pocket, and if he made any mistakes, we can get rid of that. If it's a good take live, we'll keep it. But if there's anything going on, he's going to have another chance later. He's certainly going to have another chance with his vocals later too. So it wasn't like the Soul Asylum record where they literally just turned on and just had to play the whole live record and released it. It wasn't like that. But we wanted it to be exciting, and we wanted it to sound like he made stuff sound, you know. We didn't have a big sit down and do pre-production. I didn't send him demo tapes and go like, this is where we're at, you know. We just showed up and we were like, you do your thing, we're going to play our set. And we had it down pretty tight. We had been playing a lot that year. We had done a mini tour, we had done a stateside tour, we had gone to Europe in like late '92. We had come back and toured again, and then been playing local shows constantly, driving down to LA to play Jawbreaker, practicing probably twice a week. We were tight. We were really kind of firing all our cylinders. So, does that answer the question?
Did you have like albums that you were like, it would be cool if we could get some kind of sound like this? Did you discuss that, or was it like you wanted to do your own? You just wanted to come up with?
No, we didn't really do that. But if you listen to this record, you could hear echoes of other things. I was trying to think. As I was driving down I-5 a couple of days ago to get here, I was like, I want to bring some music from that era to see because my favorite stuff from the early '90s. We were listening to like the Pixies, and we were listening to Nirvana, obviously, and we were listening to Jesus Lizard, another band that Steve recorded. And we were listening to, like, I think Sugar was out by then. Like, Copper Blue had come out. And that was like, oh my God, that's an insanely great record. If you guys are all music nerds, you know all this stuff. And they were playing that stuff on the radio too. But we were playing a lot out, and so we were playing with fluff. I remember biting some Miles' wrist and stuff. And I remember thinking, oh, it sounds cool, like O sings through an amp, like a guitar amp, you know. So there was little bits and pieces, but it's kind of like it is what it is. It's that sound. We didn't vary the style wildly. If you listen to that record, there's very little breathing room in that record at all. There's one chance for you to catch your breath in that record, and that's at the end of Condition Oakland, when you hear Jack Kerouac talking. But we're in the red. The needles are like in the red for everything else constantly. Even if it's a halftime part or something, it's just like, we're just like loud, fast. And the dynamics didn't shift all that much in the record. It sounds like a whole record, you know what I mean? If you listen to the whole thing, it kind of makes sense. It's not like it varies wildly. And then, here's a weird technical song. Here's our reggae version of it. You know what I mean?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Just to bring you back to this. The first song on the album, Boat Dreams from the Hill, I always felt like it's just where it starts. It feels like the album doesn't have a beginning. It just kind of throws you right into it. It's like
I like that.
The whole album, to me, the sequencing of that album is like perfect to me. Like it goes, all the songs are put together.
Thank you. Because we've been obsessed about stuff like that. And you guys that are in bands know what I'm talking about. Like the sequence, you sweat it. I'll see you guys later, right? Yeah. All right, cool. The last time I was with those kids over there, we were on Santa Monica State Beach. So, were we surfing? I was throwing a ball around, and I stepped on a bead. And that little kid, took me by the hand and walked me to the lifeguard station. Oh, thanks. It really hurts. And then with the live card, I didn't know what the hell happened. I thought I was stung by a pterodactyl or something. It hurt like shit. It hurt so bad. It was kind of crazy. The sequencing. You're asking about the sequencing. I did an interview recently where I said that we had that sequence going in, and I realized when I looked at those tapes that I just put up, I looked at the track listings on those, and we wanted to record it in sequence because that's how we had been practicing it, and it felt best that way. I realized that it changed a little bit. That might make you still hate me. But we knew once all the songs were done where exactly everything was going to fall. When Blake played me Boxcar, we were coming back from playing a birthday party in Oakland at the Punks for Presses warehouse. It might have been some other crazy Oakland party. It might have been before that. Blake is riding in the back, and I'm driving, and Chris is riding shotgun, and Blake goes, I got a new song, he plays Boxcar. And like, on Bay Bridge, I swear to God, I got, that's the third song on our next record. I knew immediately. And that's not to say that I have like genius ears, but it was clearly going to be a really good, rousing third song with a fun chorus, and we knew that it would go over live immediately. And you guys, if you were in the band with us, you would have been like, you should put that one in the third slot. And that's how we used to think back in the day when we thought about vinyl. You'd go, okay, you want to hit them real hard with both right out the gate. Pull it back a little bit and bring it back up. You know, it's like making a mixtape for someone that you love. You would really think that shit through. And it was, there's an art to good sequencing, and you can hear it on good records. It sounds good all the way through. You can give it like a baseball line as well. You want your speed, you want team speed to lead off. Okay, because I'm going to get to the left side. You get that kind of clean up hitter. Exactly. And if you look at the sequencing on any Jawbreaker record, you can see there's a thread there. We always ended with a big, crazy song. The last song on the record is always the one where, like, there's no coming back from this. There's no way. Everything's going to be out of tune. This is going to also be the last song in our set because everything will be broken. So we thought about that a lot. To the point where Gary Held, who owned Tupelo Communion Records, they put out Bitch Magnet, another band that Steve recorded with. If you guys don't know that band, you should check out Umber. Uh-oh, that's my mom. Where'd my brother go? Over. I'm not taking my mom to dinner this time. What was I saying? What were we talking about? Sequencing, like, okay, to the point where when we wanted to show Gary, hey, we got a new record, will you give us money to go all the way to Chicago and pay for us to have hotels for 3 nights? And it was like asking the world of an independent label owner to give you that kind of money. Usually you just record in town with your friends and try to do it on extremely econo style, you know? So we were asking him, like, we need gas money and per diems, and we need 3 or 4 nights in a hotel, and then we need you to pay Steve. Is that cool? And, you know, so we felt obligated to sit him down, to bring him to practice, and sit him down and go, and then we said, okay, sit down. Side A is this. And I said to him, you pick up the needle, and you put it down, and Gary, this is what you're going to get. And I went behind my drum, I'm like, and then we played what we thought was the sequence, which was pretty much it. That was pretty much the sequence. Save for the stuff that we did later. And he was like, yeah, okay, cool, I'll give you $1,800 or whatever. we did 2 days with Albini. Okay, so let me jump back. So me and Chris are done at 6 o'clock. So from 3 to 6, bass and drums are done. That's it. It's over. Which I'm extremely proud to say that right now, because we did 12 songs, and even just setting up mics and getting sounds and doing a line check, and everyone taking a piss and getting a drink of water will take hours if you add it all up, you know what I mean? And taking a break and then listening to it back. Like, we listened to every song back, too. So we did it really quick. The second day, I can't believe I'm saying this, and the only reason I know is because I had my journal. But we were done, but Blake goes in the next day and gets all the guitars and every vocal except for one vocal. So Blake sang 11 songs and played however 3 guitars on every song, and then heard it back all in one day. He did it all in one go, pretty much. Which, again, is totally insane. Anyone in here that plays around with GarageBand or Pro Tools, you could sit there forever, and you could tinker and do your thing over and over again, and everything could be perfectly lined up on the grid. That's not how we were doing it. It was just like, let it fly. That was kind of enlightening to me when I went back to the journal. I was like, wow, that's a lot of work for Blake to do, just on his voice alone. This is the guy that got polish removed from his vocal cords the previous October in London or whatever, when we were on tour, sang all the way through. Third day, come on, I got this. The third day, the 2-track machine blew up. We blew up the 2-track machine trying to mix the record down. Is that what it's called? Is it a 2-track?
2-track, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Totally know what I'm talking about.
Half-inch machine?
Right. So we're going, okay, we're recording with analog tape. We're recording 2-inch analog, which, by the way, cost, for us, it was all the money in the world. 300, something like that. $300 for these, okay? But I'm gonna start to sound like the old guy. I've done it. I've already done it. I'm the old guy going like whippersnapper. In my day, that was $200. It was a lot of money at the time. So when I say that we did 2 passes at Albini's for every song, P.S. we didn't keep both of those tracks. We would play it through, and if it didn't work, we would rewind the tape and go over it until we got it right. So, like, again, I don't know what we were thinking. Just spend a couple extra dollars, dude, to get it all, and don't keep going over the same piece of tape over and over again, because it's going to start to sound shitty. But we couldn't afford it. That was the tape we had. That's what we used. We're like, well, we're going to do it until we get it right. So we go and play it again, and it didn't work. So sometimes there's like, we've gone over 3 tracks.
You go 30 IPS or 15?
30. I think. If it's 30, that's 15 minutes each.
15 minutes, yeah.
So there's 4. But really we did 3 with Steve, so 3. So that's about right, because it's like a 45-minute record probably. Okay. Oh man, I'm getting horribly sidetracked.
So you blew up the mixtape.
Okay, so we're going down from 2-inch down to a 2-track machine, which is a half-an-inch analog thing, where you get your stereo, you do all your mixing and you get a stereo mix. And for some reason the thing blew up, and Steve's like, "That's it, we're fucked." He said those words. He said, "Oh shit, we're fucked." Those are his exact words. And we were like, okay, and he's booked solid. He's got this band Crane that's coming in after us, and so in the best case scenario was he gets it fixed, and we come back in a couple of days, spend a couple extra dollars on a motel or something, or maybe we have to come back in August. Thankfully, he got it fixed, and we were back in a couple of days. In those couple of days off, I want to say we went to the batting cages, or we went and saw Escape from New York, or I don't know what we did, like whatever was happening at the time. No, we saw Escape from New York was at the motel on cable, because that's an old movie. Maybe Ben Weasel took us to Wrigley Field to show us Wrigley Field or something. We went back in, we mixed the whole record in an afternoon. He sent us home with a tape, and that was it. And I think the reason why, I know that people have asked Steve in the years since, when they asked him about this record, he really has not a whole lot to say, except for, those guys fucking blew up my two-track machine. Because it was so quick, we were in there so little time that he didn't remember. This is something that happened 20 years ago. That guy was booked every day of the week for however many years in a row. He had hardly a recollection. I tried to ingratiate myself to Steve Albini by like dropping names of degenerate pool players that I knew, because I knew that he was really into pool playing. It turns out he was into billiards, but I was like, I dropped Jimmy Fusco's name, and he was like, I don't know who Jimmy Fusco is. I was like, I know. So that's how I tried to get him to like, think we were cool or whatever.
Adam, he mixed that record in one day.
One day.
You're kidding. That's absurd.
It's absurd.
That's absurd. That's absurd.
But it's true.
Wow.
Now,
didn't you go back to...
We did.
Yeah, okay.
We did. Okay, so we got 12 songs done in Steve Albini's, but what you're trying to do when you record a record, and you guys can imagine this, is that you're sort of like setting a fire. It's like a controlled fire burning. You know what I mean? You want to get a really good performance, and you almost want that more so than the technical stuff. You want it to be exciting and good, hard-hitting and fun, and whatever it is that you're going for, more so than technically perfect. So there was a couple of songs that we feel like we fucked it up. We were like, we heard it back on cassette. They sent us away with little cassettes. We played in the boombox in the band as we embarked on our tour of the United States. We did like a month tour after this, right on the heels of recording that. So we would listen to the tape and we would go like, ooh, I think we should have gone to the original version of Boat, the one with the really explosive drum intro. Or maybe Blake's vocal, didn't like the vocal of Do You Still Hate Me? Or the real big fuck up that we did was on the song Boxcar, the third song, the single, The Breaks. We weren't playing to a click track. We weren't doing it to this. It was all by icon. Billy Anderson, who we worked later, told me a great thing that's in the movie. He says that you can... I'm going to take a sip of this. Billy Anderson said to me once, you could hear eye contact in music. And it's true, because if you're not playing to a click and you have a break in a song, everyone's all on board and you go, bam! It's not always perfectly in the pocket with whatever tempo you're at. Sometimes it just has to do with you guys all looking at each other, the girls looking at each other and going, here we go. So we had blown it on Boxcar. Or no, excuse me, take it back. Boat. The break in Boat where it goes to the chorus, we didn't leave enough room for Blake to say, I want to be a. It was too quick. And the extras on the new thing had the original version of Boat Dreams from the Hill, and you could hear it was a little bit rushed and it didn't sound right. And we didn't even think to cut the tape and put a little bit of leader in there and make it sync up. That's not how we were doing it. It was one pass, that's the performance you get, for better or worse, that's it. So every song that you hear actually in our catalog, and now I'm going to sound like an old man, which I am, is an entire performance from beginning to end with no comps or editing. It's not like we had multiple tracks and go, oh, this sounds cooler, let's put that in there and drop it in because it's in the same grid. It's just beginning to end, that's what you get. That's the song, and that's all there is to it. So that's how we recorded back in in the day. And I record now, and I'm not doing it that way now. Like, I'm perfectly fine with grabbing the choice bits and throwing it in there, because I want it to sound great. But there is something to be said for this sort of organic live band playing in the room, and you can really, I think that you feel it, if you know it or not, there's something different about that, and it's what I think makes this our most beloved record. So we're on tour, and we're listening to the cassette, and we hear some screw-ups, and we're like, man, I don't think that's it. I think we got to redo this when we get back home. So we went back to our friend Billy Anderson, who recorded us on the previous record, and he also recorded us on the song Kiss the Bottle. We had worked with them a lot. Billy Anderson was an amazing engineer. He still works, and he's recorded like Sleep and High on Fire. He does a lot of work with really heavy metal bands, really gnarly metal bands. But he cut his teeth with our band back when we were making Bivouac. And Billy is the kind of guy that will go until 4 o'clock in the morning, no problem. He's like, we're here. You're paying for 10 hours, but like, let's get as much done as we can. That's the kind of guy he was. So we went back in with him, and that's what he used, which is pretty much the same thing. Two for the bass, a couple of things for the drums, and we get into a very similar room, concrete floor, high ceilings, and we made Condition Oakland, The Boat Dreams from the Hill, and Boxcar with Billy Anderson. So, though he's not represented as much as Albini, he's definitely on this record. He is represented on this record, and I felt a little bit bad that I didn't highlight him more in the liner notes when this record came out. And I corrected that, and I also gave Steve Albini credit for recording us, because before, it was credited to his Cat Plus. And no one even knew that Steve worked on this record. We just thought that was like kind of a funny joke. We never thought that people would give a shit to know that he did it.
Billy did he also do Seafoam Green?
No, Seafoam Green was done by
he didn't do it. Did he do
How's it Seafoam Green? It'll come to me.
Okay.
I'm like blacking out, and like apologies to.
That's a different group?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so I'm really yanging on like crazy, right? Like, I don't know what else to talk about here. Let me think. I got this stuff, I got that.
What about the cover?
Oh, the artwork, yeah. So we get back, and anyone that's in a band knows that the thing that takes the longest is the artwork, because for some reason you think you're going to just throw it together and it's going to go out like that. No, it never does. It always takes longer than you think. A friend of ours called Pam gave us the watch, the photograph of the watch. And the watch was this heartbreaking, I don't remember where she got it, the library or something, but it's from the Hiroshima blast, and it was frozen in time at the time. So this awful image. Like the record, the cover is really pretty, it's heavy, it's very kind of dark. The pills that are breaking up the 4 different little segments are all like psychotropic drugs that people are starting to take at the time, and also narcotics that people were still using. So there's a lot of like drug references. We weren't a druggy band, obviously, but it was out there. We were talking about it. People were starting to take those drugs, and people were using those drugs. There's like a cannon. There's a cannon pointed straight down. Wait, can I pull up the record cover? Where would that be? Yeah, here it is. So you've got. I knew going in that I wanted 2 lines to make 4 different size spaces. I don't know if that makes any sense to you design people in here. That's not my trade, but I remember seeing something somewhere where one square was bisected by 2 lines, and it made 4 distinct spaces of different sizes. And I looked at it and I thought, that's kind of cool. I like the framing of that. Let's try to do something with that. So we all got together at my house, and Tam gave us this. We put that down. Does anyone have an idea what this is?
Cigarette paper?
The cigarette filters. Exactly. Whoever said that over there. So while we're doing the artwork, we're smoking. Looking for the children. We're smoking while we're doing the art and sitting down at my kitchen table. Back in the day when people would smoke in their kitchen. And the darker ones. So we're literally taking the cigarette filters and we're cutting them, taking the little gross stuff out, the little crap out, and then flattening the little square that's wrapping your filter and just hot gluing it down onto a piece of paper. So that grid is all cigarette filters, and the ones that are darker, those are the ones that we just smoked. You know what I'm saying? That one, that one, that one, that one. Those have been already smoked. The other ones were just the fresh ones. And there's 3 matches. I don't know, three dudes in the band. Maybe we were lighting our cigarettes with those. We just wanted something coming off of the page, something that would give it a 3-dimensional effect. This sounds like we went in with a plan, kind of, but we didn't. Like everything else, we were just freestyling it. We were just making it up as we go. When we came up with this that afternoon, we didn't know. We were like, let's just see what works, and it'll be fun. You know what I mean? We collaborated. This is a Philip DeGard background to a Wile E. Coyote cartoon, a Warner Brothers Wile E. Coyote cartoon. Roadrunner, to the people that don't know who Wile E. Coyote is. So that's probably the Acme, camera. Something shitty happened very close after this was shot. So there's that. Again, kind of negative, but also kind of whimsical too at the same time. Like a heavy kind of image, but drawn in the hand of like a Warner Brothers cartoon from the 30s. I don't know. Just thought it looked cool. We like the yellow together with the orange. Right? So when you smoke Marlboro Red, what's the first thing you do after you go? You pull the little silver thing out. The foil. That's the foil from the cigarettes. It's not amazing. You guys did you guys know that, or is this news to you? Really?
I had no idea.
I thought it was obvious. I always thought it was obvious. Like they're going to know that we're smoking while it's good.
I thought it looks like it's. I thought it was like a Hershey bar. It looks kind of like there's sections for like colors.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, from the here?
No, from the silver.
Oh, I see. Oh, right.
The Hershey bar.
Right, totally. We just wanted something blood red. Blake came up with the title. Blake always came up with the titles. And when he told me that title, I thought, wow, numbers and words together, huh? And it sounded like a mouthful to me. I was like, that's a lot to say. And we just call it, like, the third record. 3. Zeppelin, dude. But no, he wanted to call it 24-hour Adventure Therapy, so yeah, there it is. And it made sense. I don't know, red, like blood red, of course. It's the color of the vinyl. I was like, oh, we gotta make it red. The CD is blood red color, almost kind of a rusty, darker red, like it's drying or something. There's Don Lewis's great picture on the back. This is the reissue, so I made the artwork a little bit more prominent. I thought that it deserved. The song titles all had a corresponding picture that I took, and then I added a whole bunch of Don Lewis's stuff into the CD. Because I thought it deserved to be a little bit bigger, a little bit sharper, and shot a little bit better. I reshot all of this stuff just because I could.
What's behind the purple?
A piece of fabric from the fabric store on Mission Street, like that I bought, and I put it down on my bed, and I twisted it like that and just took a picture of it, probably with like a 35mm point and shoot camera. That's it. I don't know why I thought, looking at the cover, I thought there's a whole lot of yellow and red in there. Where's the blue? We got to get some blue represented somewhere. This is the way I think. So we threw it on the map. But yeah, like I said, we didn't go in with a big plan, big idea. We just like, it was an arts and crafts day at Jawbreaker house, you know? And that's what we did that day.
The other guys had any input on the reach?
Of course, yeah. I sent the dudes all of Don's pictures and said, what do you think out of these 50 from that session we should use? And we all did a little voting, and then everyone got their stuff represented, and the stuff that crossed over necessarily made it, and then, you know, so it all got in there. Chris, I just got off the phone with Chris. He called me up to say that he couldn't figure out how to work Skype. I was going to get Chris in on there. He was like, I'm in a black hole here. I can't do Skype. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Good luck. Or else I would have had Chris in here and talking to you. One afternoon, I knew that we wanted to dedicate one page per song in the record, because I thought we were always like, more is more. That was our thing. More is more. If they get a record, let's give them make it as long as you possibly can, you know. So we're mastering the record with John Gold. He's like, you guys are pushing it. It's 42.5 minutes. Like, you're going to lose some bass. We're like, get it in there, you know. So we wanted a page per song. And I looked at the songs and I thought maybe I could go find an image out there that corresponded to the song. So one afternoon before I had kids, I had a motorcycle. You guys, kids don't ride a motorcycle. And I went out on my bike, and I just went out around and took pictures for the record. This was for ache, because it's about heartache. That's my kitchen. We didn't usually keep it this dirty. It was filthy dirty. It was pretty nice. Ashtray monument. Again, kids probably don't want to start smoking. I quit when I was 30. Come on, you guys. I'm just trying to wake you guys up in the back. Both. Just up on crates, you know. Both's a great song. It's a great metaphor. People love that song because of the words. Blake made it really easy to find images because he was just writing right from his journal. All of these songs are the truth. They're little short stories that Blake made out of his journal entries. And little turns of phrase that thrown in there. But all the people in these songs are real, and all of the places are real. That's why it feels very specific to time and place. It's very San Francisco, Oakland, 1993. That's why, I think that's why this endures. And part of the reason is because people can kind of go back. The amazing thing to me is that people that weren't there then can somehow relate, which means that these are universal themes about loss and about their love songs, and they're about moving on and what are you going to do. I'm not going to psychoanalyze Blake's lyrics, but anyway, they made it very easy for me to, I was like, oh, boxcar, I'll just go take a picture of a boxcar. You know, went down to the yard and probably snuck over something to get this picture. I took these with a K1000. Most basic, like if you take, you know, photography 101, they say go get a K1000, they're super cheap, and you put some Tri-X 400 in it or whatever and go to town. Chrissy Piper? Oh, Chrissy. She would relate. She would definitely. Condition Oakland, because of the railroad tracks. And there's a railroad spike. I took that home, and it's sitting on my coffee table right now. That's I still have this. This is my Royal Quiet Deluxe typewriter. You know when you go into, nowadays, if you go into like an antique store, they try to sell you one of these for like $300. Fuck you. These were a dime a dozen. I probably bought this for $5. Indictment. Money. We could be the next group that you rob. Kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, that song. I don't know if you know the words, but it talks about very clever words in that one. Blake was also writing about things that were happening to the band as well, not just what was happening in his life, but a lot of these songs had to do with what was happening to us. We were getting more popular, and we weren't just this little niche cult thing. Insetting around, because the Starlight was where Bob from Revolver lived. He lived in this building here. Blake asked him what he was doing one day, and he said he was just going to be insetting around, and that's the way that name, Jinx for moving. Again, this is just at my house, like on the, I don't know, the windowsill of the kitchen or something. Outpatient, because these cars are all laid up. Outpatient was all about Blake getting his throat surgery when we were on tour in 1992. But really, it was just, like, I don't know, 7-8 months prior. All of this stuff happened very close together, and it was very intense. So, I was writing about it. There's those pills that we had. I walked down to Walgreens at 16th and Mission, and I bought one of those reference books to see what kind of drugs you've got in your house. And there's the center section of one of those books has colored pictures. So we sat there for hours with little craft scissors, and we literally cut out every pill and put them down on one of those blue graph paper cardboard things. It's blue because then it won't be recognized if you get a copy made of it or something, if you shoot it or scan it. That took the longest time to make the front cover of the record was cutting out drugs that we found in the reference book. And there's that piece of cloth that I found down at the Fabric Outlet, West Bay Invitational. There's underside of the Bay Bridge. I had a big ass wide angle lens. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, these aren't professional pictures, but when I got them developed, I thought they look pretty cool. The first time around, I had a contact sheet, you know, when you can get a proof made or whatever, and I just like we did with the pills, I cut those out with a little craft scissors and slapped those down, and that was it. That's what you got. So all of the pictures on the original one are tiny, and they're out of focus, and they don't look that great, they're kind of dirty. I actually got them printed this time around, and I made them a little bit bigger, because I like the way these came out. And though I'm not a photographer, you can at least kind of see what's going on more in here. How do I get out of this? No, I think I'm done with that stuff. Miscellaneous. I don't know. I put some. Oh, here's Blake's amplifier. And I tell this story because it happened recently, and it's kind of an interesting story. If you like amplifiers or stories about ghosts in the machine or whatever. This was we were on tour in 1990, and we were in DC, and Blake's amp broke up. It blew up. So we didn't have any to play through. So we're in Washington, D.C. in 1990, and we say to someone who's being on the show, what are we going to do? We need an amp. We need a new head for Blake. He says, Ian Mackay just sold this guy his amplifier. Maybe you should hit this guy out. So we go one afternoon. Blake buys Ian Mackay's JCM 800 from the 80s. So this thing already, like, we were going to buy it no matter what, because it was Ian. And maybe it was played on a minor threat record. Maybe it was At least that's what the guy told us. We chose to believe it. We were like, okay, sold. It turned out to be a really great sounding amplifier, regardless of if Ian ever played through it. And I'm not even sure I ever verified it because that was true. I should probably get on that. So we toured the States. We toured Europe a couple times with this amplifier. We made Bivouac and Chesterfield King and Kiss the Bottle and Seafoam Green and 24-hour bench therapy. And we toured it all over the place. And then the band broke up in 1996. Before Blake left town, he sold his head to Dave Ehrlich from the band Nerfherder, who was living with Chris at the time. Chris Bowermeister, our bass player. So Dave Ehrlich was a Nerfherder, and they became kind of popular. They're big. They were on Fat Records, and they toured the world, and they made records with it. And then Dave Ehrlich tired of the amp, and he wanted to move on. So he sold it to Chris Rowe from the band The Ataris. So Chris Rowe, and he was thrilled because he was a fan of Jawbreaker, so it had this legacy. It went from Ian to this other guy, and then we had it for years, and then the guy Nerfherder had it, and then the guy from the Ataris had it. He takes it all around the world. Chris Rowe put it up on eBay when he wanted to move on to another amplifier, and he listed all of its credentials. And Jerry Finn bought this.
Oh, really?
Jerry Finn mixed Dear You. So this thing had traveled all over the world and made a whole bunch of records and been through all these people to then get to Jerry Finn, who made our last record, which was cool, I thought. There was like it had this pedigree thing. Tragically, Jerry Finn passed away a couple of years ago. Out of a clear blue sky, he died, passed away. Everyone was heartbroken, of course, because he was a great guy. And someone was in charge of all of his stuff, all of the gear that he assembled. If you don't know the name Jerry Finn, he mixed Dear You, but he also made he made a couple of Morrissey records. He made the Blink one. He worked with like anything you've heard on the radio from like 1995 that was up tempo, and that's Jerry Finn. Super great guy. He would greet you by saying, "Hey, little fighter." Anyway, so years later, now we're talking about this is just a couple of years ago. Jerry Finn passed away. Someone had all this stuff, and just a couple of years ago, I was thinking, I wonder what happened to Blake's amplifier. So I called up Mark Cates, who was our A&R guy at Geffen. Or maybe it was Bill Schneider, the Green Day tour manager, who used to live with Blake and was our roadie. Schneider. Someone figured out where all of Jerry's stuff was, and it was in one of those like under the warehouse storage spaces downtown. And they're like, yeah, all the stuff is gonna be sold at auction or whatever, or they're giving it away. So I said, I'm interested in Blake's old amplifier. We know it's Blake's because it says Blake on it. He wrote on it for Chris Rowe, carried that amp to a Dance to Brazil show, and handed it to Blake and was like, "Is this yours?" Blake looked at it and it had Sharpie marks where all of his settings are. And he looks at it and he's like, "Yep, that's it." And he signed it Blake with like a white hand or somehow. He signed it on the back. Can you see that? I'm not even sure if you can see it. Maybe it's there. Could it be? There was Blake on it. Miraculously, I got a call from the guy. He's like, "I have your amplifier." I said, "I would really like to have that back. What do I need to give you for it?" So he looked online to see what they were worth, what like an early to mid 80s JCM 800 deal was for generally. He says, "Give me this," and I wrote him a check, and that's my living room. So Blake's amplifier is sitting on top of my stack of records right now. And what's amazing is that I took that to my new band's recording. And we plugged it in, and it sounds amazing. It sounds crazy good. Because I had Bill modify it the way he modified Blake's other amp for Dear You. So that thing sounds like nothing you've ever heard. It's crazy good. Okay. And that's the story of Blake's amplifier and its journey back home to us. I sent him a picture of it. I was like, look what I found. And it was literally like over 15 years later. This is a picture that Don took of us at a party that Darby was having from Ben is Dead. This is us. Just say, look at me, I'm like 12 years old.
Adam, that was at the house that Eric brought, that other previous shop.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was Darby's party.
Eric had
Oh, okay.
a house, it was called.
Okay, Eric made prints. I'm going to show you the prints that Eric made because he made prints of a house party that we played. How far away is it from here? Like a stone's throw, literally? You could hold your breath and walk to the party where this was on. Did you grab the Beloit? Beloit, on Beloit, right here, right behind us. So there's prints that he's going to sell that Eric's got, and I'm happy to verify them with a timestamp or a Sharpie drawing of a cartoon character. This is in the basement of the Chameleon. We practiced in the basement of the Chameleon in San Francisco for a little while, and you could tell it was pretty little, and there was a bunch of cake beer down there, and it was smelly and crazy. That was taken by Mike Lavella for Thrasher magazine. When your band makes it into Thrasher magazine, it's a big deal. We were pretty stoked to get into Thrasher. Oh yeah, here we go. So, this is rad. Okay, so these guys, so Eric has a house party and gets us to play it in, what, 1992? 3? Whatever. 2, I bet it was 92. Flight camp from Canada, Driftwood, and us, and we're playing in the back end. Like, look at it, you see the space? Beloit, is it in there? It's right around the corner from here. I just thought it was kind of cool that this has all kind of come full circle. So this is his backyard, and we're playing, and this is, oh my God, no way. What's remarkable about this to me is that I recognize a lot of the people, like some of the people that are here tonight are like in this picture. Where are you, Dave? Are you in there?
I'm in the back.
Oh, there you are. Dave Jones is here today. There's Rachel Hayden. There's Rachel Hayden right there. I play with Rachel Hayden now periodically in her solo thing. Rachel from that John Lou's in here, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's in, I think you can see him in the other one.
Yeah, anyway. Who is?
Oh, Evan. He's back.
Oh, for sure.
From Spain.
Yeah. Parcel?
Yeah.
Totally.
He's here.
Where?
In the back.
Get out of here. Where are you? Dude. Love it. So, it's surreal to me that they're still, number one, we're all still friends, but that I'm up here holding a microphone. I feel stupid that I'm holding a microphone because I know most of you anyway. I'm like, we could have done this out in the car. But it's kind of remarkable that 20 years later, and I've got 2 kids that are into punk rock now, and that, and here we still are talking about this record, particularly. And that could be pathetic, or it could be kind of amazing. And I choose to think this is kind of amazing, and not like I'm, flogging a dead horse. Anyway. Anyway, another shot. This is the one that you printed, right? So we have prints of this that are really cool. If you want to get one of those, it's really nice, and I'm sure he's not going to do it forever. So if you want to throw Eric just a couple of bucks. Don's in the middle where? Oh, no way. Look at Don right there. Look at it. Love it. Okay. Now what? This is getting so bad with this stuff. How do we get back to the thing? Okay, we got these. We did that.
Journal.
What's the journal?
I don't know.
Oh, here's my, okay. Here's my 93 journal. This is how long ago it was. It was 29 cents to send a picture of young Elvis Presley through the United States Postal Service. I kept a semi-detailed journal every day on tour and in recording, maybe thinking that someday there would be a room full of 30 people that would give a shit to hear about this stuff. It's a silly thing to think, but isn't that what recording is all about? Recording anything is that you think maybe it's going to still be relevant. You hope that it'll be relevant. And what did we learn from this? What we learned from Henry Rollins is that you got to write it down because you may want to remember this stuff someday. So all you journaling people out there, just keep that in. Here's some stupid little aside things. Also in my journal that I would keep, and believe me, I'm not proud of this, but I used to steal constantly on tour because we were living on very limited means, and I would steal whenever I got the chance. I'm not proud of it, but I was broke at the time. I didn't have a credit card, and if I was thirsty for a Diet Coke, I would just take one. But I wasn't taking from PF. This is like from Chevron gas stations, and this is from like big box type places. Like I need to shave. I'm gonna go get this would have cost me $5.40. I kept a tally of how much the stuff was worth, and you can also see this is the time your Marlboro cigarettes were $2 in 1993. That was all the money in the world probably to us. I got a couple of Cheap Trick tapes on here, and I realized, wait, hold on 1 second. I realized when I saw that I sold the Cheap Trick tapes, I totally ripped off a Buddy Carlos fill in Ashtray Monument. And that might have been driving from there to Chicago, listening to Cheap Trick tapes that I sold. All right. Okay, we went to Shoney's and we did the thing where you eat and you leave. But I'm pretty sure we left a tip.
That was going to be my question.
Yes. Was it really?
Yeah.
I think we left a tip. I'm almost positive. I like to think we left a tip. I don't know if we left a tip. I'm not sure. But I like to think that we did. Because we were very thoughtful about this stuff. Stuck into a dollar matinee. I'm sure we bought popcorn in Junior Mints. They got their money. It's cool. You guys, I used to work at the New Art Theater with like the first year out of high school. I know how we make money at the movie theater. It's on popcorn. It's not on the ticket. Oh my God. I was thinking about this. This is totally an aside, like a tangent. I was working at the New Art Theater when the movie Head came back out. You know the Monkees movie Head? Does anyone know this? It's kind of a big deal. It hadn't been in the theater since it came out. It was 1986, and like they struck a new print, and they're showing it at the New Art. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. Like Rodney Bingenheimer showed up. There was a news crew from like KTLA there. All the guys in Red Cross, of course, that showed up. They were like all there. All of these like sort of LA luminary kind of Paisley Underground or Psych or punk rock. All these people showed up, and the man of the hour was Mickey Dolan. The drummer of the Monkees was there. it was a big deal. So being a drummer myself, I was like, wow, this is cool. And I was working the concession stand that night. And like halfway through the movie, man himself, Dolan's comes up. And I'm totally alone, there's no one in the lobby, the movie's playing, and he comes up to the counter and he goes, can I get some jujubes? Or whatever it was. And I go, I put them on the counter, and I'm like, $4. And he goes, he did this.
I haven't got any money.
Like, keep in mind, he's the man of the hour. Like, the camera crew that was there that night was there to film him at his own movie being re-released. And I didn't give him free jujubes. And he kind of started patting himself down, and I was like, sorry, dude. And I put it back in the case. And he walked away and sat back down. I never forgot that, and I swore to myself, like, I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't being a dick. I wasn't like being a punk rock, like, man, fuck that guy. I was just, like, maybe I thought it was going to come out of my pocket at the end of the night. Maybe I thought I was going to get in trouble. This is back in the day when you actually count the money at the end of the night and have to hand it to your manager and go, like, maybe, like, you're under, man, like, you owe. I don't know what I was thinking. I might have just frozen in his presence. I might have just kind of choked. You know, maybe I just got freaked out. And I swore that. I was like, oh my God, but driving home that night, I'm like, if I ever see that guy again, I'd like buy him some candy, or at least ask him if he remembers. Like, I never forgot it. So, if there's a connection to him, just apologize for me. It was kind of like, a couple of times I've seen like drummers that I really admire walking down the street. I saw Ringo Starr. I was in Melrose one time, and Ringo Starr was walking towards me, and I'm closing the trunk of my car, which has a brand new snare drum head in it. I don't know why I didn't just pull it out and say, excuse me, Mr., you know, can you sign? I just couldn't even make eye contact with the guy. He was walking down the street with his wife, and I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say anything. And he just slowly walked by, and like there he went. The inspiration, like the first band I was obsessed with, and like that's the guy. Completely dropped the ball on that. But at least I didn't ask him for money. This is the invoice for working with Steve Albini. This is what he charged us. He just charged us for 2 days, and they're all broken down for you. That's nothing. I mean, I know that it's free now to record. If you have like a Macintosh and a couple of mics, you can record basically for free. But considering this guy's, with the work he had done and even just the stuff that he was using to put us down on tape, this was not probably what he charged Nirvana a couple of months before. He worked on a sliding scale. He knew Gary from before, the guy on our label, and was like, these guys probably don't have a huge budget. I'm going to give them a break. And he gave us the friends and family discount, to which I've been grateful for ever since. And I could find a picture. For some reason, this is before, obviously, again, I'm going to be the old guy. There were no cell phones and stuff, and we didn't have a camera with us probably. Maybe we did, but we were too bashful to use it and to say, hey, Steve, man, can we get a picture? It wasn't like, we weren't constantly, I was documenting with my writing things down, but we weren't really taking a whole lot of pictures. And the pictures I did take were usually at the shows, or maybe they're just pointed out the window of the van, the landscape going by. I tried to find a picture of Steve at the time. There he is all the way on the left. And that's exactly what he looked like when we were recording. When he worked at the mixing board, he always wore that black kind of fedora hat. Again, that's obviously what he's working with Nirvana. The tour that we went on right after recording with Steve, was a month in the States, and it looked like that, maybe. Or that might have been the following. That might have been the following, actually. Yeah, after the record came out, because obviously we have the artwork there. Again, there's some big drug references, but again, it's not. We weren't a big stoner band. We weren't completely fucked up all the time. Quite the opposite. I have type 1 diabetes. I've had it since I'm 12 years old. So I don't think I ever even played with a beer in me, because the work that I do on the drums necessarily precludes me from getting out of my mind. I have to have life. I have to have juice, I need my water, you know what I mean? Like, I would sweat. Maybe I take that back. Maybe in Europe, where you live on beer and bread and cheese, I probably had a couple of beers in me, actually. But I wasn't really, honestly, I wasn't real out of my head. None of us really were. We were the kind of band that would roll into town, we would play our show, and then we would get the hell out. We would leave immediately towards the next town. We would stop in the middle of nowhere in some flea bag business loop motel, and we would settle down and watch cable TV and have like a sensible late dinner. That's the kind of band we were. And again, I'm not proud of that. Looking back, we probably should have had a little bit more fun. No, we had plenty of fun. Oopsie. Okay, coming back to my... Here's what... Okay, so I stole a lot on tour. And not crazy big things. Not big ticket things, obviously, just like pennies. One thing I did used to do, this was a ritual, every time we went to Los Angeles, every time we came to LA, we would book a tour, and it would generally start here and go down to San Diego, Tucson, Austin, whatever, like we would do that whole thing. The first stop on every tour when we pulled into Los Angeles was Save on Drugs, because Adam didn't have it together enough to be covered by insurance. So all of my blood testing equipment, all of the little strips I would pay out of pocket for. Even when I had insurance finally, this isn't going to be like, I'm not going to do like an Obamacare thing right now, but they were expensive. My deductible was really high. So the first stop was Save on Drugs, right here where my mom had a store in Pacific Palisades. The guys would pull up, leave the car running, leave the van running, and the door open, the sliding door open, right out front. I would walk in to Save on Drugs, and I would take, if my hand could pull 3 or 4 boxes of blood testing strips, they cost $72 a box plus tax. And there you get 100. You get 100. Do the math. If I'm on tour for 30 days, and I test, because you test more on tour because you're between places, and you don't know where your meals are coming from, and you're testing during and after the show, 10 times a day. So in 10 days, I use one of those boxes. So I would take as many blood testing boxes, strip boxes, as I could hold in my hand, both of my hands, and I would put them in my backpack. I would walk out the door like I owned the place, jump into the van, and we would tear ass out of it. Every single time. My mother knew this. My mother was like totally behind it. She's like, I'll bail you out of jail for that. Absolutely. No, good for you.
Like, know you at some point, and like see it coming, Didn't they like know you at some point? Like,
check it out. I finally got caught at that stuff. And this is when I'm the guy, when they, for the cigarettes too, there's a reason why they keep all that shit behind glass. That was because of me. Because all of those cigarettes I took, they used to have them right there with my friends to the candy and stuff as you're getting out of the grocery store. Those testing strips now are not to be touched by you. They're back there behind the pharmacy glass now. But they did get wise to me, and one time they caught me. I was probably already had kids when they caught me, and they busted me. I was probably 30 years old. But I have insurance now. Everything's cool now, you guys. I'm fine. Everything's cool. This is all paid for. I have great insurance. At the time, I didn't. And I would feel those things like I didn't have the $500 up front to buy all those testing strips right before tour. Living on $10 a day, and it was becoming. Anyway, okay, I'm clearing out the room. I'm trying to think of that bit. I don't know. I have a whole lot else to say. If anyone has any specific questions, I'll be here hanging out. But I have one more clip from the movie that I just got sent to me from the documentary filmmaker guys. And this is actually a scene from the movie, and it's an introduction to me, to Blake, to me, and to Chris. And this is just like a little couple of minutes of this film. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry that I talked so long. I know all of you, and again, I feel awkward that I'm talking to you through SM57 or 58 or 7. Which one is it? 58 or 58?
Rusty, old fast. When I first moved to this neighborhood, it was getting snowfall. And came out of my building one morning, it was like, a foot and a half of snow. And I saw this white mare standing out in the street in the snow without a rider, this horse. And I walked out, and all these cars kind of skidded to a stop, and everyone's wondering what to do. What do you do when you're on the road? Let me on this horse, just standing around traffic. So I kind of walked out, and I looked over, got spooked, and took off on the freeway. And I ran out the street, and I just saw this white horse loading up the on-ramp to the Fort Hamilton Parkway. That was it. Really intense. Keeper of the stuff. I basically have everything. The hard copy, I have the tapes, all the photographs, the press. I kind of kept everything. I was kind of the path rat of the band, the archivist. When the band broke up, when we called it quits, I remember the thing that I said to Blake and Chris was, I have boxes of shit. Where is that stuff going to go? Like, what am I going to do with that? Like, that was the first thing in a moment. I was like, we can't stop this band. I have tons of shit of ours. I have no idea what to do with the first thing about it. These are all of our records here, the final versions. I got a couple of these live records that we did for John Yates' label. We only got 100 of those, and I got all this weird shit back here. Yeah, I don't know what this is. I don't know if that's like a weird lacquer master, but it's like a gold lacquer master or something. For GR2 records. These are all live tapes that people sent us, or we got on the soundboard. This is the very first demo cassette that we made. God, I used to do this thing, like on our first tour, I used to just bust out my Polaroid sometime during the show and just take a picture of the crowd. The kids that went in and Georgia. But you know what, I painted a pretty grim picture when I say this first tour wasn't all that. There was plenty of kids that came out that happy to be there. These are Jawbreaker. This is the Jawbreaker mail. This is the mailbag. We kept every letter that anyone ever wrote us. It was weird. People used to take a piece of paper, they'd write something on it with either a pen or a pencil, and they put it in the mail, and then you'd get it like 2 days later. socially adept. She was, very mature for her age. She's only 2 years younger than me, but and she bumped the Texas World Record for my Christmas when I was 17. That was my sophomore, junior year. And then which is my first show, first hardcore show in 1984. My senior year, 45. I think it was September. She did well. I think she was but that's I think she was a skinhead. But at that time, skinheads were like a racist skinhead, they were like boy skin. I got into that stuff pretty late. Well, I thought it was pretty late. 1984, because, minor had been around forever, for all 4 years or something, and, they were already broken up at the time. And so it was one of those things, I think, when I went to college, my freshman year before that, late I sort of, add a tap on punk rock cred years. Oh yeah, I've been into it since like 52, 51, I was, that's the thing that kind of when you're a teenager.
Chris is wearing a Tri-State Pillsbury shirt in there. That's our shirt. Anyway, that's the clip of the movie, and that's kind of all I have. And if, like I said, if you guys had any other stuff you wanted to tell me, I would love to hear from you guys, or ask me about. Great. I was nervous that people wouldn't show. People came out, and I lost half of them about 2 hours ago. But that's okay. I'm super glad you guys came. Thanks a million, and I hope you like this music. It means a lot to all of us. Thank you.